cool hours of winter, dangerous straight-line winds, and damaging storms roaring across the Midwest. It's one piece in a brutal patchwork of severe weather. With fierce blizzards slamming Kansas, semis jackknifing on highways in Nebraska, and drivers stranded in Colorado.
I mean, I've never seen anything like this.
In Florida, brush fires closing major roads south of Miami. The Williams family almost trapped amid the flames.
We were all just telling my brother, floor it, you got to get past and do your New York driving, just go.
While the dust storms choking the Southwest this week are now getting pulled east, with dust visible over St. Louis.
There was a lot of dust that was pulled into this thunderstorm from Texas, believe it or not, actually creating kind of a brown snow.
This latest round of weather coming on the heels of a deadly week, marked by wildfires in Oklahoma and Texas, and a slew of tornadoes across the Midwest and South, leaving combined dozens dead. Destruction, scientists say, worsened by the climate crisis, with one recent study showing an increase in the frequency and intensity of damaging straight-line wind events from thunderstorms, especially in the central U.S.
What?
An area finding itself in the bullseye again tonight. Maggie Vesta, NBC News, Chicago.
All right, let's bring in Al Roker now. Al, this storm has some more punch left in it.
That's right, Lester. 5:01 a.m. is when spring starts, but winter doesn't want to let go. We have all these winter weather advisories from Kansas all the way to the UP of Michigan. Tornado watches through this evening. We're punching their way through where you can see some severe thunderstorms. There's a tornado warning between Chicago and Kankakee right now. This system pushes to the east. The tornado threat lasts until late tonight. Heavy snow blanketing the Midwest, so Chicago from thunderstorms and tornadoes to possible snow, and then heavy rain along the I-95 corridor, about a half an inch of rain possible from Augusta to Washington, D.C., and as far to the west, we're talking almost a foot of snow in the UP of Michigan. We'll have the latest tomorrow morning on Today. Lester?
All right, Al, thanks very much. Now to the clash between President Trump and a growing number of federal judges who have temporarily blocked some of the president's actions. One judge with a new warning to the administration today. Here's Garrett Hake.
Tonight, President Trump intensifying his clash with the courts, calling out federal judges he argues are intentionally trying to derail his agenda, including a judge who temporarily blocked Trump's invocation of an 18th century law to deport nearly 300 undocumented migrants and alleged gang members to a prison in El Salvador.
He actually said we shouldn't be able to take criminals, killers, murderers, horrible, the worst people, gang members, gang leaders, that we shouldn't be allowed to take them out of our country. Well, that's a presidential job. That's not for a local judge to be making that determination.
Today, that judge granting the administration one more day to respond to questions about those Saturday deportation flights and warning of, quote, consequences if he learns the government deliberately ignored his order to turn the planes around.
I never did defy a court order.
And you wouldn't in the future?
No, you can't do that.
We pressed the White House about those flights.
Will those flights to El Salvador continue while this case is being appealed?
We don't have any flights planned specifically, but we will continue with the mass deportations. This is an activist judge who is trying to usurp the president's authority.
Federal law enforcement says the deported migrants include members of two gangs the president has designated as terrorist organizations, Tren de Aragua and MS-13. In a court filing, a senior ICE agent says, quote, many of the TDA gang members had not committed crimes in the U.S., but that does not mean they pose a limited threat. It comes as family members of some of those sent to El Salvador argue their loved ones are not gang members. Miralise Cacique recognized her son in a video from the prison. She says he was undocumented, but not in a gang. He has no criminal record. They should send him back to Venezuela, she says. The White House tonight refusing to reveal details about those deported on the flights, including names, saying they trust ICE and Border Patrol investigators.
We are not going to reveal operational details about a counterterrorism operation. They have the highest degree of professionalism, and they were 100% confident in the individuals that were sent home on these flights.
So far, NBC News has tracked 37 rulings from federal judges that have at least temporarily blocked actions taken by President Trump, with a federal judge overnight blocking his executive order banning transgender people from military service. While earlier today, the Trump administration paused $175 million in federal funding to his alma mater, the University of Pennsylvania, for allowing a transgender athlete to compete on the women's swim team.
And meanwhile, Garrett, one One day after his call with Russian President Putin, today President Trump spoke with Ukraine's President Zelensky.
Lester, this was the first time they've spoken since that Oval Office blow-up. President Trump called it a very good telephone call that lasted an hour. And Zelensky, who had already accepted Trump's unconditional ceasefire plan, also said he'll support the limited one that Putin also agreed to. But both nations launched attacks against each other last night, suggesting there's still a long way to go in this process. Lester?
All right, Garrett Haake, thank you. In the Dominican Republic, there is late word tonight that Joshua Reeby has left the country. Reeby is believed to be the last person seen with a college student who has been missing for nearly 2 weeks. Jesse Kirsch is in Punta Cana. Jesse, what have you learned?
Lester, Joshua Reeby is now back on U.S. soil. He just landed on a flight that officially ends what he says was a days-long detainment in the Dominican Republic. NBC News saw the 22-year-old and the man believed to be his father earlier today at the airport in the Dominican capital. They were wearing face masks as they went through security. Reeby's departure comes after days of questioning by investigators over the disappearance of Sudiksha Kunanki. Reeby was never named as a suspect at a contentious hearing yesterday. He asked the judge to let him return home, and now he's on his way. Lester?
All right, Jesse Kirsch, thanks. President Trump has delivered on a campaign promise to release thousands of files on the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. But do they resolve the questions that have long surrounded the case? With more, here's Andrea Mitchell.